Easterseals provides many services for those diagnosed with autism. And we have Emily Reidford, Vice President of Community Outreach and Education, with us today. Emily, welcome back to Newsmakers.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So tell us the mission of Easterseals.
Yeah, at Easterseals, we really work to provide positive differences in the lives of those with disabilities. And namely, we also try to really change the way the community views and treats disabilities.
So how does Easterseals help people with autism?
So we do a variety of treatments and medical therapies at our office. So things like PT, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, audiology services, and also psychological services. And really what I tell people if they're asking questions about autism is the first thing you need to do is get an accurate diagnosis. And that's where our psychology department comes in.
So that's something you all will do?
Yeah, we can do that right here at Easterseals. We have almost 12 providers who are able to test someone for autism and other diagnoses.
Well, what's involved in that testing? Is this something that's written, verbal?
So a little bit of both. We use over 50 different kinds of measurements and tools are at our disposal. We don't use all of them with each single case. It's really, there's an assessment done, and that provider is working one-on-one with that kid to figure out where are they falling on different spectrums, different scales. They can look at IQ, emotional intelligence, order of operations, all different kinds of measures to figure out, is there enough to meet criteria for a diagnosis, or is there another diagnosis that they could get?
Well, that was one of the things I was going to ask is, are some people sometimes, do you find that they're misdiagnosed?
Absolutely. So I think one of the things our providers are really cognizant of is sometimes we'll have people coming in thinking that they or their child already has a diagnosis or already has autism or something else. And it's the clinician's job to be very objective, very impartial, and look at the data. What does the data and the testing metrics say? We see a lot of self-diagnosing with autism especially, and that can be pretty difficult either to unwind a diagnosis or a preconceived notion on the part of the parents when they think, my child has autism. It can be very difficult to say, actually, no, they don't. Or the other way, if the parent's like,
to tell them that they do.
To tell them that they do. Sometimes that can be tough news to receive too. So it goes both ways. But the important thing is getting that objective, clear diagnosis.
And then how do you choose the best course of action once you do have a diagnosis?
Yeah, so again, that's all individually driven, and the provider is able to decipher what kind of course of action should be next. Maybe it's something like social skills groups, maybe it's a more intensive intervention with a comprehensive team, but really looking at that individually and seeing, where can we meet this child with their needs.
So I guess there's different treatments for different age groups.
Absolutely. So what we kind of say in the office is if you've seen one child with autism, you've seen one child with autism, because it can be very, very different for each situation.
Definitely not a one-size-fits-all.
It's not a one-size-fits-all. So some kids will like a lot of stimulation and a lot of sensory input. Others, not so much. They like very minimal sensory input, very minimal distraction. So you just have to kind of figure out, where the kid is with their needs and what they're bringing to the table as well.
So are there newer technologies or methods that Easterseals is using? Or
I wouldn't say there's new technology per se. So the tests and the protocols and the kits that we use have really been tested and researched themselves and are pretty tried and true. What is new is how we are interfacing with the clients there. So some of the tests have moved to an online system where the kids are using iPads and computers, and so it kind of looks like computer games. Some are more written hand-eye, kind of written on old school pen and paper and that kind of thing. So while the technology is changing and adapting to that kind of fast-paced information feedback loop, really the tests that we're using are tried and true and reliable.
So how has the size of the program changed, or is it just staying consistent? Or
Yeah, so at Easterseals specifically, we've always had psychological services since our inception in 77 years ago, but we only had one psychologist. So we know one psychologist can't see that many people, over the course of a year. However, in about 2018, we had a retirement of of a psychologist, and we decided to really dive into mental health services and kind of carve out that niche. So we brought on Dr. Jim Schrader, and he built a team and has continued to build that team. And now we have almost 12 providers by the end of this year. So we've, really quadrupled our bandwidth for psychological testing in particular, but really overall mental health services.
So before that, was Easterseals mostly more physical type of
so we did a lot of physical disability services, so the physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, that kind of thing. We had a little bit of mental health services, a lot of testing for psychological disorders, and then some counseling. And now we're doing both at a high level.
Well, did you find that, has the need grown that much?
That's exactly what we found.
Okay.
The need was growing so tremendously, both nationwide and in the community, but really the need within our own clients we saw growing tremendously. So our clients now, in the past, they would come in and just need speech therapy or just need physical therapy. And now they're coming to us to the door with certainly those needs too, but they're also coming in with some sensory dysregulation.
Right.
They're coming in with a lot of social insecurity. They're nervous. They've got anxiety too. So they're just coming to us with a lot more needs.
And so it made sense to
it made sense to grow our program.
So can you tell me about any success stories insofar as with working with people with autism?
Yeah, so a couple things. When you're working with a child with autism, sometimes it's hard to know where they're going to be at on a certain day, at a certain appointment and that kind of thing. But I think where we really see the biggest success stories are as we're working with a client and we can see them really increase their communication skills. They're working on eye contact. They're working in, a small group, and they're graduating from that group. And, that's where we really see it down the road when they're able to function at a different level than when they came into us. And we see that all the time.
And that's exciting.
Yeah, it is. It is.
So what do you think, what would you say is the best way to connect with or stay up on current with things that are going on at Easterseals?
Absolutely. You can definitely follow us on Facebook for those, day-to-day kind of updates, but really our, even just our website is a great way to kind of get more information about, if you are trying to seek out services or look for a resource for someone you know or care about, start with our website, kind of dig into that, and you can obviously get information about our psychology services there too.
All right, well, thanks so much. It's good information.
Yeah, thank you.